Good morning, y'all. This is my second attempt to start my video today. Uh, ran into some audio issues this morning, so just bear with me here. This is the tropical Atlantic. We have a tropical disturbance off the coast of Africa here, just emerged there. Forecast move this way and eventually move up into through the main development region up into this area here, at least right now. Some disturbed weather in this area here. And with this trough digging in here, I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe a low spin up in this area. And the GFS has been hinting at this for quite a while, uh, but none of the other models are showing it, so I'm very hesitant to really talk about it much. And whether or not it'll be tropical in nature is another question here. So you can see the mid-level water vapor. What I'm talking about here, we have trough digging down. A lot of times on the right in this area, when a short wave or low upper mid level low digs, you can have a low pressure form on the eastern side of it, and or there could be one up here. It just really depends what's going to happen. And what I was looking at yesterday was the GFS was showing some vorticity, mid level spin moving up into this area, and then possibly forming something and either moving up here or being missed by this trough and then moving this way. But I think there's quite a low chance of that happening, at least right now. Model guidance is more fixated and on this system here. Um, and quite a bit of moisture associated with this, the mid levels, lower levels, upper levels. You can see the mid level water vapor indicates the dry air is in the yellows here, right? At the upper levels, you can see the flow is quite conducive right now, at least in the eastern part of the main development region. Looks like um, kind of flattened ridge is here, if you will. The flow going around like this. In the low levels, the low pressure is coming off the coast here, or low pressure or disturbance. Uh, Really, I'm going to keep an eye on this region down here and see what this does. See if this lifts to the north or not. But this is an upper level feature in the main development, Central Atlantic, and you have this disturbed weather off the just to the east of the Lesser Antilles, Windward Islands. So, big story right now is this. Big story. Well, not a real big story, but what people are watching. Because really, you want to see if the tropical Atlantic's really gonna um, come to life here in the end of September, which I think we're gonna have some systems. We'll just see what happens. But this is the latest from National Hurricane Center for this system. 40% chance of development in the next 7 days. Yesterday it was 20, then 30%. Now it's at 40. So National Hurricane Center is up in the ante on this a little bit. But once it reaches the central Atlantic and the central part of the main development region, the conditions are going to be a little more hostile. So we'll see what happens. So when we look at this, right, we want to look at what model consensus is showing, um, and we want to see what the ensembles say, right? So the European ensemble members here. I like to use the European because honestly, in my mind and a lot of other people's, the European is the most reliable. It has its biases, but I tend to want to err on the side of conservative because the GFS tends to overdo things. So what we have here is the 51 member European ensemble showing high and low pressure centers and their pressures and where the model thinks they're going to be. And these are the probabilities of depression formation, storm formation, and um, hurricane formation, all from the European ensemble. So you'd see we're at 72 hours here for the and this is started at this run is from 00Z today. Um, so deeper yellows here indicate probabilities of greater than 50% chance formation in the next 72 hours. For depression, storm, nothing there. Hurricane, of course, nothing there. And you can see low centers type start to crop up here in the main development, Central Atlantic, main development region. Tropical storm formation, depression formation probabilities are still relatively high. And we see maybe something else off the coast of Africa. Now we see possibility of a tropical storm formation increasing a little bit. Move through time here. Here's the low centers. You see what I'm talking about. There's not any consensus that at least right now, and this is 9 days out, anything's going to come near the continental US in the short term or medium term. Go a little bit further out. And this is where I'm going to stop it. You see, some members want to do something here in the Caribbean. You can have peninsula. So that's something relatively new with the Europeans. So, and you see over here some splotches of color here that indicate maybe it's starting to think something might happen. Again, tropical storm formation probabilities, and you have some other depression probabilities cropping up on the coming up here. So I think the latter half of the September into October is going to be quite active. Whether we get landfall and hurricane in the United States, nobody can predict that at this point. So we'll just have to stay tuned for that. So moving on to what some other models think. This is the um, experimental little deep mind and next gen and next graph and European ensemble and high res models all together here. Low center, European high res always wants to put a little pressure here. That doesn't stay there, and over time, you see, once put something right there in the short term, interesting. Um, see the orange dots, right, and the low that we've been talking about, and then we have another one here that wants to scoot further east. This one here, moving up this way. So you see what I'm talking about here. Uh, Looks like it's going to be getting quite active in the tropical Atlantic. What does the Euro AI think about all this? We move through time here. Let's just take this low here that we've been talking about, moving north of the, although it's pretty weak, moves north of the Lesser Antilles and wants to really develop it once it reaches the same area where Aaron did, possibly impacting Bermuda. That's almost at the end of the month, so we'll certainly have to keep an eye on that. Again, back to the European. Let me see if I have any more recent runs here. I don't. So, European, low center, Central Atlantic. This is the operational model. Doesn't really want to do anything with it, but does want to bring another low um, into the Caribbean, and maybe do something in the Central Atlantic. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. GFS, and it's all its spurious behavior. This is the most recent run. It only goes out to 132 hours. It wants to develop this low and move it further north quicker. And you see this low off the coast of Central America here, and that's where the model run ends for now. So you got a lot of time to watch this stuff. What does the CMC say? The Canadian. See, hope this isn't the most recent. My problem. My bad. So move through time here. This one wants to develop it further here and move it to the north. And some other low pressures in the main development region. And maybe a broad low here in the Caribbean. What's the icon say? Let's take a look at the icon real quick. Icon can sometimes be on the mark and sometimes it's just way out to lunch. So Icon wants to do something like the GFS does, put a low off the coast there or something. But I think all models agree something's going to be, we're going to have a depression at least in the central MDR region in the coming days. What happens after that? And all bets are off at this point. But we have plenty of time to look at it, guys. So no need to worry about it right now. Lastly, just keep an eye on it. That's all I can say. I want to go over the tropical cyclone formation probabilities for week 2 that the Climate Prediction Center has put out. This was issued on Wednesday. You can see you have 20% probability for the next week, 40% in the dark red area, and 20% in the Gulf of Mexico and off the coast of Mexico in the East Pacific. And they still maintain a 20% risk in the same areas for week 3, which is the last week of September. So I think they're spot on with this, and part of this is based on climatology. What normally happens this time of year, we have a lot of activity. It's a peak season right now, so we'll just have to stay tuned and see what happens. As you can see, not a lot going on except for the upper northern high plains. A few MCSs moving through the flow here with some heavy rain and storms, and some enhanced precip Intermountain West, right? And still on the Florida coastline here, which has been ongoing. A little bit of something here in Alabama. Other than that, except for this activity and off the coast of Africa, not Africa, Florida, not a lot going on. So when we look at the outlooks, let's start with the excessive rainfall outlook for the coming days. So we have for today, this is till 12Z. Slight risk in South Dakota, North Dakota, marginal risk in Montana, Idaho, Mexico, Colorado, surrounded by marginal risk there, up into the upper Midwest. And this will be for today. You can see the slight risk has moved eastward here into most of North Dakota, or part of it anyway. Marginal risk surrounding it, and also along the front range of the Rockies here into Mexico and the desert Southwest, Kansas, Oklahoma, parts of Texas, and along the Florida coastline, southeast coastline there. Threat for day 3 moves further to the east up into North Dakota and South Dakota for a slight risk, excessive rainfall, surrounded by marginal risk there. Day 4, they don't have anything. And day 5, there's a small marginal risk into Nebraska, South Dakota. So, interesting. I wonder if it's just missing or there isn't one. Anyway, moving on to severe weather. Excuse me. All right. Severe weather for today. Into marginal risk of severe weather into Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, into the Intermountain West, surrounded by a large area of thunderstorms possible along the Gulf Coast as well. This is mostly driven by no tornado threat or small. Wind and hail threat, 5%, right? And day 2, that wind and hail threat moves to the east. And you have the wind right off the front range of the Rockies there. There's your categorical outlook. For day 3, they have a marginal risk already for North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, parts of Iowa, Minnesota, and Kansas. Of course, thunderstorms and showers in the Florida, and surrounding the marginal risk is a large area of shower and thunderstorms. You see in the southeast and northeast is vacant of any kind of precip, really. So, given that, I want to look at the drought outlook here real quick. Current drought outlook, heavily weighted on the western side of the Rockies here, but building more into the northeast and the south here. Go further monthly. Let's see what this means. Moderate drought. So, they said it had some improvement in the drought in the Midwest here, but in New Mexico in the West, it's still relatively high. And if this dry weather continues in the East, I can see this drought probabilities go up pretty quickly. As far as the hazards today, let's take a look. Go back to the radar. Oh Lord, I'm struggling a little bit today, guys. Go back to the radar here. Here we go. So we got a flood watch here into Colorado, parts of Utah. Some flood warnings up here in North Dakota, South Dakota. Got air quality alert in the Atlanta area today, which isn't surprising given the stagnant conditions and lack of air movement. And you have some small craft advisories along the East Atlantic coast there. Air quality alert into Dallas and to New Orleans, Houston. So you see what's going on here. Frost advisory up here in northern into Maine. That's pretty crazy. Dense fog advisories. A lot of stagnant air around, and air quality alerts again into Washington here. So a lot of stagnant air and people who are susceptible to have asthma and things like that probably need to stay indoors or stay in an air conditioned area, something like that. So overall, we have some flooding along the coast here from the rains that have occurred over the previous days. So that's it for that. Just real quickly, satellite loop for the continental US. You can see what I'm talking about here with the most convection. Moving to the north here. Okay. And this way. So moving to the north here and then down like this. So, all right. So moving on very quickly, I wanted to go through this with you guys. This is the long range temperature anomaly output coupled with the 500 millibar heights, and which is a flow at the mid levels, which we like to look at, right? And this shows um, the flow that we currently have that I talked about, like this, kind of an omega block pattern right now. And this is the 850 millibar temperature contours anomaly, right? And the darker, I could say the red and oranges and browns indicate higher than normal heights, which usually equate to warmer temperatures at the surface, and the lower heights, which are blue, green, etc. Green is more extreme, magenta, of course, but um, lower heights below normal indicate cooler temperatures usually. To the right is a total precip. So let's move this through. Y'all can see on the top left where the temperatures are coolest, below normal. The central part of the country getting quite warm here, right? With a low off here and high pressure and low here. You can see the 850 heights, right? And the most precip is along this boundary here. And the boundary, it just dips south and along this boundary here, right? Um, so we move through time here. Warmer temps build to the east, but the southeast stays pretty cool for a pretty long term, and you can see the lack of precip down in here. This is total precip, almost nothing. The flow at the mid levels becomes more zonal with like an upper level low maybe here and another low here, another low here, but not as amplified as this trough lifts out. Warmer temperatures you see down on the bottom left, 850 millibar temps, and they equate to warmer temperatures over here, east of the Rockies, for the most part, except for this low departing in the northeast, which leads to cooler than normal temperatures up there. Precip is still limited for the south in the long term, and it looks to stay that way for the foreseeable future. It looks like the Gulf of Mexico is closed for business, really. And if we believe this model this far out, you can see where the flow is pretty zonal with a little amplification here, but the warm temperatures persist. And the warm temperature persists in the central part of the country here. The east and west cooler than normal. So overall, the middle part of the country is going to be the hottest up into Canada, with most of the precip in the same areas. And the south is looked to be dry, shows the northeast for the long term. That's all I got, guys, for today. Hope you all have a great day, and God bless.